Hello, this is Robert Smigel with Europe's podcast, where we talk to entrepreneurs and leaders who are making it happen here in Slovenia. Now, get ready for an inspiring conversation with Vuk Lau. Vuk is a SaaS veteran with over 25 years of entrepreneurial experience. He has built and led multiple high-performance global teams and understands what it takes to grow early-stage startups into sustainable businesses. Today, he's an active investor, advisor, and mentor focused on early stage strategy and business development, and he's committed to supporting the next generation of founders across the Balkan region. He currently serves as partner at Silicon Gardens Venture Capital Fund and as president of the Slovenian Startup and Scaleup Association. He will be attending PODIM on May 11th to 14th in Maribor, Slovenia. So we hope to see him there. Thank you, Vuk, for coming on the show and on Europe's podcast today and sharing your journey with all our listeners.
Hi, Robert. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Okay, let's get started here. Okay, Vuk, you've got quite the career. It's been long and interesting, but you're a founder turned investor. Such company as Celtra, Veza, Riveris, and you're a partner at Silicon Gardens, the Adria region's first Founders VC. What's interesting is what drove you to build this fund, and how does your operator experience shape how you back the next generation, being that you've obviously had some successes, but now is this a way of kind of giving back, or you just generally want to stay in the game? What's it look like for you?
It was not a planned journey. There was no plan. It was just from one thing to another. Like after one of the companies that basically the company I joined when I moved to Slovenia, Celtra was acquired 4 or 5 years ago by STG, and with a couple of my colleagues we started angel investing. And at that point of time, Silicon Gardens was already at Fund 2. But maybe to give like a bit of context, like Silicon Gardens is actually built on top of community, and that community is like almost 20 years old. Like where we were like starting doing working in tech business, the knowledge was not as democratized as it was now. So when I moved to Slovenia like 12, 13 years ago, like Silicon Gardens was the first kind of like place where I could like get even some basic advices. So the joining them was kind of like a natural movement. Like I started doing some angel investing, then like I knew the team from Silicon Gardens from before. And at that point of time, like there was this kind of like a strategic decision, like will there be a Silicon Gardens fund number 3? And what would be the form of that fund? And then we kind of like sat together and said like we'll do this the right way. And all 5 of us committed full time. And now we are in the actually 3rd year of fund number 3, and already slowly started working on fund number 4.
Awesome. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what does Founders VC really mean in practice at Silicon Gardens. I mean, beyond writing the check. I mean, obviously there's money involved here, but what is it beyond that? Are you guys really kind of getting involved with each of these enterprises, startups, and what's that look like for you?
So, I mean, all 5 of us like built and sold the companies, and until recently, most of us were actually kind of like operators in the trenches, hiring, firing, pivoting. So all of this still kind of like close to us. In an ideal world, we would love not to be involved and just startups and founders to do their own thing, and we to kind of like be there to enjoy the work. But the reality is like, especially as we invest in like the early stages. Sometimes we invest even like before the company is even officially founded, like pre-revenue, pre-product. And sometimes like what we try to do is just to help founders skip some mistakes that we did and that also like some other founders did, because like now we have more than 50 portfolio companies, and also that's quite a learning experience, as you can imagine. Pretty much like every startup plus our own experience, like we did like a load of mistakes along the way, and if nothing, like even if we kind of like don't go into nitty gritty and like start working on strategy and things like that, but if we can just help them avoid some mistakes at the start, I think that's a mission success.
So you're doing a lot of mentoring.
So yeah, no, but like not just within the fund. Most of us are quite involved in the regional ecosystem. Like I also work quite closely with the Serbia Innovation Fund, with the technology parks around the region, with the Innovation Fund of Montenegro, also of course in Slovenia, in Croatia, and we try to kind of like, at least when it comes to some basic mistakes that we see that are kind of like repeating across the region. And one would be a lot of people just kind of like build stuff and don't validate their ideas. And I think it's kind of like a cultural thing here in the Balkans. Like we enjoy building things, but when it comes to actually going to the market and presenting this, it's not something most of the people particularly enjoy. So validation of idea is one thing that I know I'm like really passionate about, and most of my colleagues from the fund. So if we can save someone like month to 6 months of their life, or them not building the wrong thing, I think that we're slowly moving the needle.
Yeah, so you're
But
bringing in your experience and giving them some direction, and like you said, saving everyone time.
yeah, I mean, I was like lucky enough that when I moved from Belgrade to Slovenia, and like my previous life, like my own company, it was in B2C space, gaming and esports. So when I moved to Slovenia, I started working at Celta, and at that point of time, there was maybe only 25 of us. I didn't know much about customer success, support, post sales, pre sales, and I was lucky enough to find like really good mentors in the US and some here in the region. And I think it's really important that like when you start the journey and like you don't have the mileage, you don't have experience, that you find like good mentors. But at the same time, like what I'm seeing, there's a lot of how would I say? I mean, startup world became kind of like a mainstream, and it also attracts a lot of people who call themselves mentors, advisors, uh, board members, and so on. But they're like not not bringing the best to the ecosystem, and many of them are not many of them, but there are like more than a few cases where they're trying to just use the lack of experience with younger founders. So that's also one thing that at least I'm like trying to prevent here.
Okay, so you've got or Silicon Gardens has a bit of a history with PODIM, but you guys have moved from a longtime partner to co-organizer of PODIM. And what prompted this bigger role? Is this something over the years you decide we need to get more involved with this particular conference? What's that look like?
Again, there's not much about it. It kind of like felt as a natural step. I mean, the PODIM conference is like 25 years old. And I think that the team around the PODIM conference is like, they're doing an amazing job, taking into account it's basically only a handful of them. What we noticed, because like we travel a lot, we're attending other startup conferences, and like from the operational, like an organizational perspective, like PODIM is an amazing conference. What was our impression, that simply because like they're a small team, that they can't manage to kind of like put it into the next level. And I think we just brought like our connections and a couple of ideas. One of the ideas is again like kind of like having something we call a builder stage, where basically we bring like co-founders, like and kind of like C-level operators that share some of the kind of like things that they believe are applicable and can be useful to young founders in like really no bullshit format, just like 20 minutes straight to the point. That's one thing. The other thing is we saw that like the PODIM is really well accepted within the let's say the Ibenet region, but we wanted to expand it because like we saw that like startups from the whole CE are coming to PODIM. And we just extended the invite to all our peer and follow-on investors to come and kind of like see the PODIM. And it's not just kind of Adria region, but also covering like a more broader like Central and Eastern Europe when it comes to it's kind of like startup and investor matching. So we just kind of like landed our hand and a bit of the network because I think that PODIM deserves to kind of like continue and grow as a conference.
Has it always been in one location in Maribor? Is that predominantly where it's
yes. And there is like always, I mean, logistically, it's not maybe the best place possible. I mean, Slovenia itself, like even Ljubljana, like we don't have perfect connections when it comes to air connectivity. But I personally love that not everything is happening in a capital in Ljubljana, and Maribor is a beautiful city. The PODIM venue is amazing, right next to the river. So I know that like some people said, "Oh, why don't we move PODIM? I don't know, to like Ljubljana or maybe some other city." But I think that Maribor is a perfect place for it.
Good. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the builder stage at PODIM. You'll be curating that and bringing in battle-tested founders from companies like Outfit 7, Sport Radar, and Bird Bunny. Why did you create the stage, and why and how does it make a difference from the other particular properties going on?
Yeah, I mean, we saw that, like, for example, Slush is one of the conference with this kind of like builder stage is really amazing. And like, I'm like going to Slush for the last 4 or 5 years. And I'll always, when I have time, I always like go straight to the builder stage because exactly, you get like 20 to 30 minutes in a more kind of like intimate setting. It's not like a huge auditorium. Like there is, I think, maximum like 100 people can fit in that for that particular stage, and you really hear, as I said, like no bullshit advices on particular topics, and we kind of like try to split it into B2B and B2C because like not every advice is applicable to every business model, where you can hear something that you can actually that you could implement it right away, maybe like even tomorrow at your company. But I think what's more important that after the session, you can just go behind the stage and spend another half an hour with the presenter and ask directly, like if you have any additional questions, like you want to just kind of like throw back and forth some ideas. And I think that the possibility that you can talk one-on-one, or maybe like if there's a couple of you like straight to the presenter or panelist, I think that like you can see that at every conference, and I think it's really important that you can kind of like build that connection and kind of like just expand the conversation from the panel itself.
Okay. Silicon Gardens also runs the popular poker night at PODIM with 100 players, founders versus investors. And what's the idea behind it? I really love this idea, and it's very unique. And is this something you saw in other conferences? Is this something you just kind of brainstormed and came up, and has it got a bit of a pass to it? Or I just love the idea. I think it's really unique.
So again, no, there was no grandmaster plan. So there are a couple of conferences like at Slush, you have a poker event, but it's kind of like completely different setting. This actually came from coincidentally. So every year we organize our internal founders meet where we bring our portfolio founders from our portfolio to one place. We usually go somewhere remote and spend 3 days in kind of like this more intimate setting. So 2 years ago, it was September, and we had like a bunch of outdoor activities planned, but weather didn't want to cooperate. And despite like the initial forecast that like the whole weekend would be like sunny and the weather would be perfect, it completely turned around, and it was like foggy, rain, like temperature dropped 20 degrees. So we had to figure something quickly, like how to replace these outdoor activities. And one of the colleagues said, "Oh, I know the guy. Like he's a professional like poker play, and he has his team, like they can just bring the tables and like we can play poker for like one afternoon. And he miraculously managed to scramble everything in like less than 24 hours. And like this team was amazing. And half of the founders like never played poker before. So for us, it was extremely important. The whole setting is beginner friendly. And it was a success. Like it was a highlight of this kind of like founder offsite. And we said, let's just do it on PODIM. And we found phenomenal venue. We tested the idea last year. Everyone, I think again, it was, I wouldn't dare to say it was a highlight of the whole conference, but like it was probably the most discussed side event. After the PODIM, we received like a bunch of questions. So next year, will you guys organize a poker night again? So yeah, now it became a tradition.
It's now a mainstay. That's fabulous. Yeah. Okay. As board president of the Startup and Scaleup Association at the Slovenian Chamber of Commerce, what are the biggest opportunities and blind spots for the Adria CEE startups right now?
Oh, I could where to start?
There's a lot of them.
But yeah, but like one of the things is definitely now with like the landscape changing, it's easier probably than ever to build and start a company. And I think now with kind of like something that's natural for the people from this region, and that be scrappy. We're seeing like a lot of opportunities where people basically just test the idea, launch it in a week or two with something slightly better than MVP, and it just kind of like lifts off. And finally, like what we're seeing is people are experimenting way more than before. But on the other hand, like we struggle a lot with basically the whole administrative legislative system. And one of the things that we try to address here in Slovenia, at least, because unfortunately, like if you look the European startup standards, Slovenia is at the bottom. Like I think that we conform to only like 25% of them, and like we're just trying to change the ecosystem, but mostly kind of like the legal framework to be more founder friendly. And lastly, like I think that we need, like one of the biggest challenges is how to activate private money. We're seeing a lot of, or let's say mixed success with European Union and like activating or like deploying a lot of money through different vehicles. But when we talk with other funds, we all kind of like struggle more or less to activate private capital and like to have more business angels and more funds with private money, not just like European and government. And that's one of the things from investor perspective that we're trying to change. And that was one of the goals also of Silicon Gardens. Like it's like it's not that known that one of the goals with the third fund was also to kind of like democratize investing in venture capital funds in the region. And I think that we had like quite a bit of success. We have almost 120 investors in our fund, and most of them are either like ex-founders or current founders, most of them with exits. And I think it helps first to activate private capital, but also all these people have immense knowledge, like huge networks, and that's something that can be extremely helpful to founders.
Okay, so PODIM is May 11th to the 13th in Maribor. What should founders, operators, and investors get most excited about this year, and what's one key piece of advice for attendees? And one more thing I'd like to add to this is that, you know, in the world of AI, everything's virtual. Everything's, you know, calls like this and stuff like that. How important is the face-to-face meeting with the founder, with the investor? I've heard some stories that it changes a lot, and how important is it that these founders do come to PODIM and interact with these investors, and what's their, I guess, range of success being, as opposed to connecting with them on LinkedIn or something like that. Just kind of giving me some of the face-to-face stuff and how important it is to attend this and meet face-to-face with people.
Yeah, I think it's crucial. I mean, we were forced for like a year or two or three to kind of like move to predominantly online, but face to face, at least to like my humble opinion, will never be replaced. And then like one of the things that we try, that with every founder we're kind of like close to investment, that wherever they are like in the world, that we either fly there or to fly them here and to spend some time together, because like that's something that you just simply can't do online. And like for this year, I think that I know that we had like a record number of startups applying to PODIM. And I think like unofficial information, that we also have like a record number of investors. And one of the things where PODIM really excels is this kind of like this deal room matchmaking, because you can just like have 2 full days, regardless, like are you investor or a founder, like 2 days on one-on-one meetings where you can like really tailor these one-on-ones to what you're looking for. And I think that's one of the best things about it. Like it's big enough that you have, I don't know, 50 plus different investors, or like if investor, like, I don't know, almost like 800 or more startups. But it's still kind of like small enough and intimate. Like the setting is really there. You don't need to walk for, I don't know, 15 minutes or like half an hour to get from one place to another. So I think this kind of like matchmaking deal room is really one thing where PODIM shines.
Okay, we're going to get out the crystal ball. Next year, if you and I meet next year, where do you want your business or even yourself to be? And do you have any goals for Silicon Gardens or anything that you're working on? If we were to jump 1 year ahead, where do you want to be?
I'm pretty much the same place, but yeah, a couple of like, we would like to see a couple of really good winners from fund number 2. I'm sure that we'll have some amazing stories from fund number 3. And yeah, as I said, like we're already slowly gearing up to start fundraising ourselves for fund number 4. So yeah, some clarity around that would be nice. But definitely, I'm extremely optimistic, not just like for ourselves as a fund, but for the region in a whole. A lot of good stories, and I think that many of them will continue expanding and growing.
It sounds very vibrant there in that whole region, the area, with a lot of startups, founders, investors. Just the whole ecosystem seems to be really kind of nurturing, and it's growing quickly. Is that what you're seeing?
I mean, we don't have a choice. Like if we want to catch up, like we just need to step up the game. And I think that there were enough really nice wins and exits in the past 5 years, that we're also seeing some kind of like trickling down of that success across the whole regional ecosystem. Now I think like the maybe 5 years ago the whole region was underfunded. That's not the case for sure. And yeah, it's easier than ever to build a global company, like regardless of where you actually are. So yeah, I'm optimist.
Okay. Last question. How should founders keep their pitches? Short, sweet, to the point? Keep it succinct? What's everyone looking for as far as in investors?
I think like if you can clearly communicate which problem you're solving, and many are still struggling with that. Like when it comes just to kind of like pitch decks, pretty much like everyone are using AI nowadays. So like pitch decks, it's really hard to differentiate what's good, what's not. I will not use any other word. But when they start actually talking, like many struggle to communicate the message. So I think if you manage, like, of course you should keep it as clear as possible, and you should always start thinking like, what's that differentiator? Why like, when, I don't know, we'll have a demo day next week, and like most of us PODIM like semifinalists, and most of us will listen to, I don't know, 40 startups in one day. And you, like, as a founder, you really need to think hard, like what you will communicate that will differentiate you from 40 other startups. And it can be different things. But one of the things that many kind of like neglect is that you communicate what did you do to de-riskify your idea, because usually when we're listening to the pitches, it's in like earlier stages. So many kind of like skip what are these things like that you did to validate your idea and to de-riskify the whole project for yourself, and then of course for investors as well. So that's maybe like one thing that I'm not seeing as much as I would like.
Okay, Vuk. Well, thank you very much for coming on Europe's podcast. I enjoyed listening to your journey, and I'm sure our listeners have as well. And good luck at PODIM. Remember, PODIM is on at May 11th to the 13th in Maribor. If you're a founder or investor, you definitely want to attend this event. Sounds like it's going to be fantastic. And thanks again, Vuk. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Robert.